So hello everybody, welcome to the studio. We're here at Film Soho in London. I'm Julia Streets.
I'm Antoinette Raymond.
And this is the show called This Age. And we are so excited because it's all about ripping up the rule book for women over 50.
And harnessing the vibe of our tribe.
And we want to inspire the next generation of women and men, as well as recognise those who have gone before. Hi, Money, can't wait. Tell us more about her.
Well, she's affectionately known as the Mamarazza, and she's been acknowledged as the first female sports photographer by the National Union of Journalists. Oh. She's taken over 10,000 photos of Crystal Palace Football Club, and it all started with a chance visit with her sons to watch a game. And that's not bad for somebody who wasn't interested in football at all.
Didn't she wrote a book?
She did, yeah.
What was the book
it's called High on Palace.
See, I love that name.
I love that.
Fabulous name.
Yeah.
So when did she first start taking pictures?
In the 70s.
So just imagine that for a second. So in the 70s, she goes into the press pack, which I would guarantee are all men. And I had read somewhere, I did some research on her YouTube clip, that they were really, really unpleasant.
You can about
towards
imagine. You can about
There's a surprise.
Yeah.
There's a surprise. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to ask her about that. Also, the management, I think, were quite intolerant, but then let her in and reluctantly. But the players really liked her. So I've got so much to ask her. I'd love to ask her about that.
Mamarazza.
Yeah.
Mamarazza.
That's
It's
it right
in
there.
the name.
It's in the name. It's
Love
in
it.
the name.
Yeah.
Can't wait. So Antoinette, you and I have talked at length about different topics that women of this age seem to face. And you've mentioned a badass tribe. I'm very curious.
Well, I did research. About 7 years ago, I looked up and all my clients were women. And that was a wonderful moment of just recognizing that that had happened naturally. But I took it seriously, and I stepped back and I thought, well, wait a second. Is there something different about that? Is there something I should really research more about leadership in women? And so I went to my tribe, and I have a tribe of about 200 ranging from age 18 to 80. And I asked them questions, and they kind of get me a sense of what's going on in the world. And I said, well, what does she look like? What does this woman look like? And as a researcher, this was exciting because I had 5 capabilities that came up unanimously. They were confidence. She shows confidence. She's inspiring. She's the queen of comms. And then these last 2 were fascinating. She is tenacious and she's resilient. And someone then said, really, that's the word gumption. And I love that word gumption, right? And gumption is defined as the ability to decide what is the best thing to do in a situation, do it with energy, do it with determination, and don't quit. Gumption.
So I think that our guest today, and I can't tell you how excited I am that she's in the studio with us.
It's ridiculous. We're so excited.
Just personifies gumption to her very, very core. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our amazing set, the wonderful High Money. Hi, welcome to the show. Oh, hi. We are so thrilled that you could be with us today. And thank you for taking the time. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, but I'm a bit nervous because I've spent my working life behind a camera. So this is a challenge for me, and I'm loving every minute of it so far, but it's only just started.
Well, we've been in hair and makeup, and we've had
Yes.
most incredible conversations about just even getting us into the studio, and it's
I'm in good
phenomenal to have you.
hands. I'm in perfectly good hands.
And I tell you what, it's an amazing team we have here as well, which is phenomenal.
I agree.
So this is all about kind of ripping up the rule book of women over 50 particularly. But in your career, talk to us a little bit about, the rule books you have ripped up.
I suppose I didn't even know there were rule books, to be honest. I had no idea, for instance, when I wanted to go and take photographs at a sporting arena. I had no idea there was a rule, no women. I wonder if I knew then at the time that women weren't allowed to do this job. I wonder, looking back, whether I would have said, oh, well, maybe I'll step back because there's a reason, there's a rule. But because I had no idea, but I had this passion for photography that I just wanted to go and photograph a live football match. And I didn't even care that once I found out that there were rules, I didn't care because I thought, where does it say no women? allowed to do this.
So take us back to that day when you decided that you wanted to be a pitch side press photographer. I mean, how amazing.
I didn't even know there was a title like pitch side press photographer. No, I have 3 sons and a daughter. The other way around, a daughter and 3 sons. And my 3 sons were football mad. But we'd never actually, they didn't say, I support this team, that team. They didn't wear specific shirts or anything. They just played football in the garden. And I would photograph them all the time. I just loved photographing action. And when it was one of my son's 7th birthday, he said, I said, what do you want to do for your birthday? We were walking home from school. And he said, can I go to the palace? Because all my friends have been. And I said, you can't guarantee the Queen's going to be there. Why want to go to the palace? And he said, not that palace, silly. It's Crystal Palace. And I was imagining something I had no idea existed, like out of a fairy tale book. He said, no, it's a football club. Wow. This is magnificent. First of all, there's so many people. So it's like being back in India where I came from. There was nowhere in West Wickham where I lived where there was a congregation of hundreds of people. They were playing Liverpool, so there was this sea of red, shirts and scarves. The palace were claret and blue at the time. And there were people of all generations, elderly ladies with little bobble hats. It was like a world I never knew existed, because at home we had a little black and white television set. And when football came on, I would go to the sewing machine and do my stitch. I'd go up to the dark room. I would disappear. And suddenly I was exposed to this world of colour and families and just joyful. It was just wonderful. But that's even before I went and saw the action on the pitch.
Well, I was going to ask you, is at what point did you then decide you wanted to get closer to the action, which is extraordinary for somebody who's a self-professed football denier?
Our seats were right up at the back, and then I took my Rolleiflex camera, which I was using at the time. It was like 12 exposures in one roll of film, and I got all these people in front of me, and I could see down onto the pitch the action of what my boys were playing in the back garden, like leaping up to grab the ball, like to save it from going to the back of the bushes, and we didn't have a net. And everything that the children were doing, it was done more magnificently and with such grace. And what I saw was grace, beauty, style. And I've got this 12 exposure film, and it was these people were in my way, and it was getting on my nerves. And just about time when they're going to score a goal, everybody jumps up. And I was saying, this is absolutely frustrating. I've got to go. And I noticed people were sitting by the goal. And in a funny way, I was thinking, when you go to the theatre, you pay extra money, you could sit on the front row. What do you have to do to sit close by there? I didn't know they were press photographers or special. So when I came home, I just said, I've just got to go back, but I have got to get closer, because I could see there is a possibility of sitting close. I don't know how they got there or why they got there, but I just wanted to know what I could do to stick close by.
So can I ask you just a quick question on that? So I mean, at some point, the press pack that were down pitch side, that's hallowed area for them. They are getting the best shots.
I didn't know there was a press pack.
Okay, and what was their reaction to you coming in and going, I want to be with you, I'm going to be literally pitch side?
So what happened then was I decided I would phone the club and say, how do I sit close by? I phoned and I phoned and I phoned and I phoned. I left messages. Nobody answered, so I thought, I know where it is. I'll drive back then, face to face. If he says no, I'll accept that. So when I arrived at the club, this lady said, can I help you? I said, my name is High Money. And she kind of shriveled. And she said, I said, you're not answering my phone. I said, you're not coming back to me. Who could I speak to sit close by? And she gets on the phone. She said, that woman who keeps phoning with a funny name, she's here in person. And she puts the phone down. He said, send her up. So that's when I said, oh, thank you. I didn't know where I was going up to who to see. And then when I eventually saw this guy sitting on the steps. It turns out to be the manager. He was eating his soup on. I don't know why he was sitting on the steps. And I said, I want to know how I can sit close by. Because I want to get photographs and all these people are in my way. And he said, are you a photographer? And I said, no. Are you press? No. But I really want to know. And he said, with a name like High Money and a cheek like yours, for goodness sake, give this woman a pass and get rid of her.
Best. I love gumption. Just right
That is
there.
gumption right there,
I
isn't
love
it?
that. Just get her out. Give her a
Amazing.
pass.
Even think that there's press, you've got to go through procedures. The passion and the desire to be that close, to photograph that magic of capturing people in midair at the thousandth of a second. It didn't make me feel scared. It didn't make me think, what am I doing, to ask. It was just normal. How do I get there? And so then he gave me a press pass. And then all the fun started when the next home match was. They were just full of men. I wasn't thinking, oh, there's no women around. I just knew it was just packed. Hello, hello. He said, what, look what just walked in. And they were all laughing. They were saying, got your knitting, darling. You brought your crochet with you. And they were just making fun of me. And one man got up and he walked towards me because I'm standing there bewildered. And he just knocked me aside and I lost my balance. He said, sorry, sir, never noticed you standing there. And I was thinking, why is everybody being so rude? Why are they so mean to me? Because I was just so naive. I did not know it was a man's world. I did not know there were no women photographers. All I knew is I wanted to be close by and I wanted to have the opportunity to see if I could photograph a grown man leaping up into the air at a thousandth of a second, capture that, the same as my little boys were doing. And then I realized then that it was going to be a tough journey.
You're telling us about the moment it started, when you started ripping up the rule book. I'm curious, what particular rule, or can you remember a rule after 50 that you realized you had to rip?
I think I've been ripping up the rule books, but from the time I left India on the boat, etc., and having to stand on my own 2 feet, straight from boarding school to a foreign country, and you've got India background, you speak with a different accent. They were saying, you know, you wogs can't come to our country and think you can get all the best jobs when I've got certificates of education and shorthand and typing and all the rest of it. So I just knew that from the moment I landed in England, my mother who sent me didn't know that we were not welcome. I didn't know we were not welcome. So from the moment I set foot in England, I just knew that it was going to be a battle. I just knew that every single job I went for, whatever I did, it was just, you are these foreigners that come to our country, etc. So without realizing it, I've been ripping up the rule book from the day I landed in England.
Were there any that came with age? So after, we were talking about this before.
Because I'd been doing it for so long, by the time I'd reached 50, it was just a way of life, ripping up rule books. It was just a way of life. So whatever obstacles came in my way, I was not breaking rules. I'm not ripping up the rule book by breaking rules. I was ripping up the rule book by who says that at the age of 50 everything's got to stop? Who says? Where's it written? That you can't just continue to do and follow your dreams. It's not written anywhere that is the stopping point.
And so continued on. You just kept going.
And I'm here today, which shows I'm continuing on.
So I'm really curious. I mean, what comes next?
What comes next? Being here is massive. It's really massive. Massive in a way of thank you so much for finding me and giving me this platform. That is massive for me. And what's going to happen from now on? Maybe have an exhibition, maybe do a book. You know, what's to stop me, really?
Just on that platform, tell me why this platform meant so much to you.
Because you're an old lady, you can't go down the podcast avenue and be with the young ones, you know. There's no rule that says, as an older person, you've got to stop exploring and going down avenues that you tiptoe through because you're a little bit nervous. But you get to the other end of the street and you say, did that? Wasn't painful.
And what I love about your journey and all the research that we've done, you've got a determination to do something. You'll get up and you'll go and do that. And I think what's amazing is hearing the generosity, but also the humility with which you're inspiring another generation in the work that you're doing. You talk about a book, you talk about an exhibition, you talk about being here, and the inspiration that you're passing on to other people as well. When we think about gumption, I mean, does that reflect how you feel?
I think without gumption, I would not have gone back to Selhurst Park that first day. And without gumption, I would have been in that press room and all the men were laughing at me. They didn't even, they weren't even like subtle about it. Hello, darling, didn't notice you standing there, it's that sort of thing. So without gumption, I could have just walked away and said, this is not for me, I'm just too scared. But without gumption, I knew I wanted to be on that pitch taking action photographs with professionals to make. I mean, when I look at it, worked in the darkroom and I put my negatives in the enlarger and I see I've captured this goalkeeper parallel to the ground with his fingertips just about touching the ball, as sharp as anything, 1,000th of a second. That is power. It's powerful. I could make magic happen by making time stand still with a photograph. And I could put up with anything you say. 40 signatures were signed against me joining the union, National Union of Journalists, when I proved after several years, 2-3 years, that I'd had publications in the National, the Evening Standard newspapers, the Croydon Advertiser, which is a palace paper. I had proven, I had ticked every box, but being female, 40 men photographers signed a petition against me. And I've got a letter to prove. They said I'm taking men's work away from them. I only go to football because I take my children. But yeah, I buy tickets for them. They put them behind the goal. There's no law against that. But I had to go to the solicitor and to the lawyer and get them to say there's no law that says even 40 signatures against me, being the union member when I ticked every box. Where's the law that says you're a female, you can't do this? So they eventually had to give me my NUJ cards. And that was a big moment for me because you're supposed to be protected by the NUJ, but I used to protect myself anyway.
We're very passionate about supporting entrepreneurs and rising business women. And so actually, it's a bit of a weird segue, but we'd like to offer you a cookie. I don't know whether anybody could see these, but the wonderful Cynthia Akinsanya, who is, let me just pass those along. I don't know whether you can see the So Cynthia Akinsanya is, runs a business called Delights by Cynthia. Now, she was featured on Kirsty's Handmade Christmas, so Kirsty Allsop's show last year. Her business is amazing. Follow her on Facebook, by the way, because her cakes are glorious. If we brought a cake in here, it would melt. So she's made these incredible cookies. And by the way, if you go to Delights by Cynthia and put an order in, quoting the hashtag #ThisAge10, she'll give you a 10% discount because you're part of the tribe. So listen, have a cookie, have some sugar, but also tell us about the message on the cookies as well.
I mean, that is so clearly emboldened. Rip up the rule book. This couldn't be more emboldened.
It's got your name all over it. It's got your name all over it. Beautiful. So thank you to Delights by
yummy.
Cynthia.
Screwed it, nailed it. And it is a time, we talk about how there are times in our career, and you've been sharing some of them, where things didn't go so well. I mean, in fact, they probably failed or they went awry. But you didn't stop. You came back, and you somehow succeeded and you nailed it. And you took it and didn't let it define who you are. We're wondering an example of that you would share with us.
I suppose the reason I went to the National Union of Journalists to protect me was because of the time when one of the Crystal Palace players was playing for England, and therefore he was playing at Wembley Stadium. So because I was covering that area, I applied for the photographer's pass for Wembley Stadium. And they sent me the pass, which I couldn't believe. So I bought 3 tickets for my sons, and we went off to Wembley Stadium. I saw them at their seats and I said, do not move until after the match, do not. And I'm going to find where the press... This is the days before mobile phones and things. So I had my press card, my camera, my films, and I went into the press entrance and the man stood there with his hands behind his back. And he said, you can't come in. I said, this is my press pass. He said, is there nowhere you women don't want to stick your noses in? This is the hallowed turf of Wembley. You are not allowed to come in. I said, this is high money, me. This is an official pass from the Football Association. And he absolutely would not let me pass. Now, other photographers were coming through. It was an international, so some wouldn't have known who I was. But the Fleet Street mob, as I call them, the hated Fleet Street mob at the time, they saw me and I didn't like to say, help me out here, but with my eyes, I was pleading with them. They were walking past, looking down at me, they could see me, argy-bargy with this guy, and he's got his hands behind his back, tiptoe from heel to toe. No, you cannot pass through. And I had to sit outside the entire match, outside Wembley Stadium, crying my eyes out because they wouldn't let me in with an official pass because I'm female. So you probably, anyone listening would think, well, did you not find, there was no mobile phones or anything. Where would I go to look around for a call box? Who would I ring? I haven't got the FA's number with me. So I then decided, so my children were looking, where's Mum? She's not here. So I was worried that they might come out early. However, that's when I decided I'm going to join the NUJ. But the interesting thing is that I was going to do the photographs for the local paper. And when I came home and I said they wouldn't let me in, so they just did a little tiny piece, is Wembley ban on high money discrimination or something or other. It was only a tiny piece in the local paper. And unknown to me that the MP for Croydon was the Speaker of the House of Commons, and he was a Palace supporter, and he apparently used to like seeing me on the pitch or something, I don't know. But I get a letter from at number 10 Downing Street. We've read about this, and if you'd like us to give you some, to back you, we will. This is not right, and it's bad treatment, words to that effect. But I didn't want to follow that because I thought, I'm not getting involved with MPs to fight my battles for me. And I ignored it. But I still have that letter. Next thing I know, I get an invitation to go to the Houses of Parliament. And the members of Parliament are now going to form a football team. And I think they call themselves the Westminster Wobblers.
I'm sorry. Right there, that's perfect. I love that.
And then they asked me to go to the House of Parliament because they wanted to let me introduce me to all the team. And I was just so excited. I was thinking, I can't believe that the MPs have asked me to be their photographer because they'd heard about me being banned and everything. So I turn up there and I've got the name of the person I've got to ask at St. Stephen's entrance, and there's the MP sitting there, and they were chatting, and there's no photography, you're not allowed to take photographs, fine. So they said, right, we've got to go out and meet the press now. So I didn't know that there was going to be a photo call. So now I'm going to St. Stephen's entrance and I'm walking out, and all the members of Parliament behind me, and there roped off is the football press photographers. And I walk out from the Houses of Parliament and wonder, fucking hell, there's high money. High money.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
I didn't know there was going to be a photo call. So I walk out with all the MPs and they're there behind the rope. And if I weren't a lady, I would have done this to them.
So we have another special segment on the show as well, which is basically we love to pass on advice. We've talked about you inspiring others. We also invite all our guests to bring some advice in an envelope. We're going to ask you to bring that in a second. But when we talk about advice, Antoinette, I know you're always full of advice. So share a piece of advice that we can all in the room enjoy today. And then the idea is that, you've got a piece of advice written in an envelope that we will then give to our next guest in our next episode. So to kick us off, Antoinette.
So one of my favorite pieces of advice that I've received and that I try to follow is never diss a sister. So it's about ensuring that we're always lifting each other up, that as women, we're intentional about making sure that we're always positive and we're not dissing a sister. We're not putting her down. We're not looking for fault.
I love it.
I do too.
I just love it.
So, Hi, you've brought a piece of advice in your envelope. So, why don't you give that to Antoinette? We will make sure that safely goes to our next guest in our next episode of This Age.
Oh, I love it. Already.
Love that.
Love it.
Love that. So to everybody, thank you for joining us on This Age. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Hi, Money. It has been a joy to have you. Round of applause for Hi, Money, everybody. Thank you very much. I hope you'll join us again very soon for another episode of This Age. I've been Julia Streets.
Antoinette Raymond.
And until next time, goodbye.